Into the shadows of time where family secrets lie buried. There's a calling, a whisper, a hidden chapter waiting to be unearthed. I am Jesse, and I will be your guide on these journeys. We will see bloodlines unravel, secrets brought to life, and forgotten pasts that claw their way out from the depths. This is not your average ancestry show. Brace yourselves as we dive into family history, sharing stories, finding new bloodlines, unmasking lineage, and bringing families together. What long-lost relatives have you found? Have you found new family? Do you have a family tree that's not complete? My life changed a little over 3 years ago and led me to write a book, start this podcast, and share my journey. In doing so, we found many others wanting to share their journeys as well. Follow us for new episodes of Finding Your Family. Each episode will open doors where few dare to wander. We'll navigate through family history, find relatives, and share all the new stories of life. If you want to share your story, please email us at findingyourfamilypodcast@gmail.com. Enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of Finding Your Family. And today I wanted to update you on some of the things that I've found with my family. And I'm actually recording this as a video and as a podcast. I'll be uploading the video on YouTube and other formats as well, so you can check it out. But I found some really cool stuff that I wanted to share with everybody that I found out about my mother, and a few other things I wanted to share that I brought in the studio today. So first and foremost, I found a song that my mother wrote for her mother years ago, and then she actually had this song produced and sung by somebody for her mother. So here's the tape right here, as you can see it there on the video. And then when I was going through my mother's stuff after she had passed, I opened up this red folder, and then I find in here the Heart song. This is done in 1997. My mother titled it The Reasons Why. And then if you even check out here, there is a certificate of that's a big word for me, authenticity right here as well. Very, very cool. So I wanted to play this for everybody today so they can kind of hear some of the stuff that my mother had did, and I wanted to keep her memory going. So listen up. This is going to be really, really cool.
Taught her how to live. You have always been there with so much support, love and care. 5 kids at home, and Jesse, your first grandchild. How did you stay sane and still be there all the while? You have always been by your side through everything. To her and so many others, so much joy you bring. Always accepting challenges, always your head held high. She has learned to be positive, and you're the reason why. You have never passed judgment, never criticized. There is so much love and strength in your heart and inside. If Jane could be anyone, it would be you. Today is for a mother as wonderful as you. You have always been by her side through everything. To her and so many others, so much joy you bring. Always accepting challenges, always your head held high. She has learned to be positive, and you're the reason why. You have always been by her side through everything. To her and so many others, so much joy you bring. Always accepting challenges, always your head held high.
Wow. So we actually had to bring in a cassette player because this was recorded on a cassette, as you can see in the video, to get that to play. And what a beautiful song that my mother had written for her mother, my Nana, as I call her, who's still with us, who I actually shared this with when I had first found it. And she was obviously already knew about it, but it was such a touching song, and I wanted to share it with the world. I also wanted to share a few other things that we found going through my mother's stuff. Quite interestingly enough, there is an article that was written about my mother and when she chose to go through adoption. This was written back in 1994 in the Washington Post in the health section of the front page. My mother was on it. It was titled, "How Could I Give Up a Child for Adoption? I Did What I Thought Was Best." And then as you go into the center of it, when they talk about it, they have the whole big article written there. As you can see, that young man right there, that's me over there as well. And it's quite the article. It's really interesting to go back in time and read some of my mother's thoughts and how she was coping with the idea of having to put her daughter up for adoption, who, if you've listened to my podcasts in the beginning of the first 4 episodes, I talk about the discovery and finding my little sister and reconnecting with her. And I must say, now, 3 years later, it's been quite the journey with her, Meredith, and quite this, it's just been amazing. I've such the bond with my sister, and we talk on a regular basis, and we're 2 peas in a pod. As a matter of fact, I also wanted to share something my sister did. So as soon as my mother had passed away and I found my sister, we connected, obviously, and we spent a lot of time together, and we went over a lot of the photos that my mother had, and she went ahead and put together this album for me in memory of my mother, and it was quite beautiful. As you can see it right here. First picture is me and my mother, and then as it goes on, it shows my mother back in 1976 when she first had me, and then also goes in further and shows a few other pictures here as my mother gave birth to my sister, and then also as I was starting to grow up. Interesting enough, she found a few poems that I had written. One that I wrote to my mother when I was a child. I made my mother my Valentine. So I'm going to read this to everybody. It says, "To my Valentine, I love you very much, more than words can say, even though I am writing this poem for Valentine's Day. I cannot give you chocolates or flowers either, but my love for you will always be here forever. Because the chocolates will be eaten and the flowers will die, but my love won't do either, so I'll say Happy Valentine's Day. Love, Jesse." Pretty cool. I even have a driver's license of my mother when she was very young as well, and some other pictures when she was quite young. Some of these pictures I'd never seen before, and they were all just quite new to me and quite exciting to go through, and especially to share them with my sister as well, who was just experiencing all this stuff for the first time because she had never got the opportunity to meet Mom. She never had the opportunity to have any of this. So this to be able to share some part of this with her was quite special. Even here, there's a picture of her as a baby when she was born. She was born down in Providence Hospital in Washington, D.C. back in 1959. And as we go through and look at some of the other pictures here, her as a child, here's one that was especially unique. The black and white there in the corner looks exactly like my sister when she was growing up. Some of the resemblances are uncanny. The quirks, the things they do, that my sister does and my mother did, is just quite amazing. And they look a lot alike. Interestingly, going through some of these pictures as I do right now, talking to you all, a lot of very, very neat pictures as I'm growing up and seeing all the family together. And this is what it's all about. This is what this podcast is all about, is finding your family and being able to go back and share some of these memories and journeys that you had as it's going through here. I'll kind of share again some of the pictures. You can see here, as you can see on the video, there are some of the pictures. Quite cool. There's me as a little baby. And then there's the poem right there. So here's another poem that I had written after my sister was put up for adoption, and I was still going through a lot of emotions myself. So I'll read this to everybody and to the audience and share it with you. It was touching for me. So as I title it, says, "Now this piece of writing is a little different and much more personal. I wrote this about my sister, Elise. I only saw her for the first 3 days of her life. She was put up for adoption. I was in 6th grade at the time. This decision was made out of love, and not until 7 years later did I write this poem." So my sister was originally named Elise, and then when she was adopted, she was named Meredith. So that's why you always hear the name Meredith here for my sister, and that's her name. So here's the title of the poem. It was called "A Teardrop." And here it goes. "A teardrop from my eye, I cry an endless cry. For a very special girl, for her I'd conquer the world. How she looks I always wonder, in just one chance to see her. But she must find me, I wonder how long it'll be. How I love her so, but my sister I don't even know." This is dedicated to my sister, Elise Rose Snyder. So that's the poem I had written to my sister before I had even known her. And for many, many years, I had thought long and hard and wondered about how my sister grew up and how her life went. And the interesting thing, audience, is me and my sister grew up in the same fishbowl, as we call it. We literally grew up in the same areas, right outside of DC, Montgomery County. Like there's a good chance that she went to the same restaurant as a child that I was serving tables in and didn't even know it. Literally, when I moved from from Maryland to Ohio, I was working before I moved 5 minutes to where her parents lived in Potomac, Maryland. That's how kind of crazy it is. So when my sister and I did reconnect and we started talking, there were so many things we had to share about growing up in the areas. I mean, I knew all the areas. Heck, when I found my sister where she was living at, right across from there, my aunts and uncles had went to school. Right off of Veers Mill Road, right in Montgomery County. It was crazy, some of the coincidences and some of the similarities that we had already, and we're brother and sister. It was amazing. It was special. It was crazy to go through all these different discoveries with her as she grew up and shared her life with me, and as I grew up and shared my life with her, and all of the same towns that we knew and all the same cities that we knew. Anyways, thank you very much. I just wanted to make a very short, quick podcast as an update. Oh, well, hold on. Before I forget and stop here, I must share another update that we had here. So I recently got a call from Grandpa Pope. Now, to give you a little background, John, who was my father growing up that I knew as my father, his dad, Glenn Pope, who I always knew as my grandfather, and who raised me for quite a while. My grandparents on the Pope side, as a little child, were very involved in raising me as a little child. So I, to this day, still have connections with them, more so than anybody else on that side. And my grandfather gave me a call. I was away at the time at a friend's place, and he called. I didn't recognize the number, and so I let it go to voicemail, and he left me a message. So he left me this message, and he said, "Hi, this is your ex-grandpa." And I just wanted to let you know I heard some of your podcast, and I want to let you know I love you and I would love to talk with you. And so I get the message, and where I'm at right now is really loud and noisy, and I couldn't step away to really take some time to talk with him. So I just texted him back and said, "Hi, Grandpa. Just want to let you know you'll always be my grandpa, and tell Grandma that I love her, and I'm in a noisy area right now, but I can said I'll be driving back home tomorrow." I was in Pennsylvania, and I'll be driving back to Ohio tomorrow, and I will give you a call. So I get a text message the next morning very early. My grandfather texted me back, and that was probably one of the toughest mornings I've had in quite a while, because right then and there is when I found out that my grandmother had passed away. See, I had no knowledge of that until that point in time. I thought she was still with us. So it was tough. It was really tough to not be able to give my condolences to her when she passed. I shared a lot with her growing up. I have a lot of memories with my grandparents on that side. And even though they're not blood, I'll always consider them my grandparents. Always. So lo and behold, I go ahead and give my grandfather a call on my way back the next day, and we talked for a little over 30 minutes. It was amazing. We shared a lot of updates on things that were happening, obviously with my grandma passing away, and things that are updates on what he's doing and how he's doing. And then I updated him on how I'm doing and everything, and then started sharing some of the things in life that had happened, and why I was at where I was at, and how I felt about everything, which that obviously relieved him, because I told him that I love him. I always love him. I'll always be considered my grandfather, and that regardless of all this stuff happening, and I've embraced all of my new family as well, because that's quite amazing and new, and what a blessing for me to be able to find that and to have that answer, right? To have that knowledge. Because for me growing up, I never understood why John didn't want to have me around or be a part of my life. And for all that to kind of line up, it all made sense. And as me and my grandfather talked, and and he shared stories with me and I shared stories with him, it all more of it lined up with everything. My grandparents didn't find out about this until probably a good 15 years ago. So they always thought I was a grandchild until then. And even then I didn't know, right? So how crazy is that? Anyways, we had a great long talk. It was wonderful to talk with my grandfather. We will be keeping in contact, and as a matter of fact, he lives in the Florida area. I plan on grabbing my sister when we go down there, and both of us are going to go see him. And we're looking forward to that. But I just wanted to share you some updates of my family journeys, and as they continue, I will be doing podcasts to share those. The only other update is the book is almost done. The book is almost done. We're still going back and forth on titles. Right now I have it as A Mother's Secret, A Mother's Love, How DNA Changed My Life. I'm thinking of changing it to Finding My Family, How DNA Changed My Life. I kind of like the ring. It goes with the podcast as well, so we may be changing that. I'm going through the third edit right now. As soon as it's done, we're going to release it to Amazon, and we'll let the world know about it as well. So keep tuned and for more podcasts and more stories and more journeys, and I'll share more of mine as we find out more. Thank you all, and talk to you soon.